this December, what the angels want us to know is that the earth is, of course, going to undergo this same blossoming wherein her energy body opens up to receive spiritual light from the universe, not only from the sun, but also even from other galaxies, from our galactic center as well. There's this beautiful wellspring of light codes that flows from the center of the Milky Way. So my name is Sarah Hall, and I am an angel channeler. I was first introduced to working with the angels about 17, maybe 18 years ago when I had a really amazing encounter with the angels. And this started me along a path of healing, wherein I was able, with the angels' help, to heal from depression and anxiety, and eventually learn how to channel the angels myself as well, which inspired me to work with the angels so that I could share those same messages of healing and hope with other people that I originally received on my path. So now I'm a professional angel channeler. I share angel messages on my YouTube channel and with my clients and students. Now, as we approach the end of the year, we are also approaching the December solstice, which, of course, in the northern hemisphere is the winter solstice, and in the southern hemisphere is the summer solstice. So, yes, this end of the year time is very powerful for receiving new light codes and shifting into a new consciousness. This December, what the angels want us to know is that the earth is, of course, going to undergo this same blossoming wherein her energy body opens up to receive spiritual light from the universe, not only from the sun, but also even from other galaxies, from our galactic center as well. There's this beautiful wellspring of light codes that flows from the center of the Milky Way. And during this particular solstice, that light happens to be going very, very, very deep. It's going to be rooting very, very deep down, and in particular, helping to activate the lower chakras for us as human beings. So that would include our solar plexus chakra, which is located in our belly region, our sacral chakra and our pelvic region, and then the root chakra, which is located at the very bottom of the spine. Each of these chakras are related to our relationship with the physical world and navigating physical, earthly, human experiences. So, according to the angels, this particular activation is going to be very, very deep, helping to kind of plant seeds into those lower chakras so that as we get ready for 2025, we're going to be opening up to a year for physically manifesting changes. We've spent several years receiving a lot mentally and emotionally and making big shifts on many, many levels. But for many of us, this is going to be a time to make things happen physically, to manifest things in the material world. So that's what this solstice does. It's basically opening up a portal that activates the lower chakras and takes this new energy very deep so that we can activate it physically. Now, when we think of the earth in this process, this timeline of giving birth to a slightly new level of consciousness for humanity, the earth does play a strong role in this journey that we are undergoing as a collective. And one of the interesting things that we can look to is that with each of the Earth's major events throughout the year, including solstices and equinoxes and sometimes eclipses and things like this, that these are all moments in the Earth's natural cycle for us to receive these new influxes of divine light. Now, one important thing to understand, I think, when we look at these different moments when the earth opens up to receive this light, is to understand the relationship between the earth and the sun interestingly, in this process of spiritual ascension, this process of receiving this new light. According to the angels, interestingly, the sun is something that we could almost think of as if it's like a portal, or maybe even you could think of it as if it's like a magnifying glass that is magnifying this consciousness. So, in the spirit realm, all consciousness, according to the angels, is made of light. Like the substance of consciousness is actually light itself. So, the sun, of course, being a portal for light, being a source, a beam of powerful light that surrounds our earth, right? That light has the ability to be infused with divine energy, infused with divine consciousness that flows into our planet. And it so happens that throughout the Earth's yearly cycle, as it undergoes, again, the different major solar events, equinoxes and solstices and so forth, those events typically offer an opportunity wherein the Earth's spiritual energy field will bloom open in some way and allow in a new influx of that divine light. And of course, all human beings are connected to the earth. We are all one with each other, but we're also one with nature as well. Our own spiritual energy bodies, by the way, connect very deeply into the spiritual energy body of Mother Earth. So when Mother Earth's spiritual energy body opens up, receives this new light, and downloads this new vibration, this new frequency of energy, our spiritual energy bodies tend to do the exact same thing. They bloom open, they receive just what the earth is receiving, which is this new influx of light that is encoded with consciousness and energy and information. And then from there, that light will actually begin to activate the spiritual components of our DNA. So according to the angels, our DNA is designed to respond to light. It actually responds to the sunlight. The sunlight is incredibly physically healing for us, by the way, according to the angels, to be in that sunlight. It can unlock healing information inside of your body. But not only that, when the sun is helping to channel in these new phases during the birthing process of the Earth's evolution into this higher vibration, that light will activate the spiritual components of our DNA and cause our own spiritual energy bodies, our own consciousness, and our own physical bodies as well, to make slight alterations so that we too can become a vehicle or a channel, we could say, for that new light, for that new energy that's coming in. Oftentimes this will trigger healing in us so that, again, we can purge out anything that does not serve our movement into a unity consciousness. So just as we're doing that on a collective level, we're also doing that on an individual level at the same time. And this in turn causes us to gradually rise, undergo a lot of different changes that helps us to gradually rise into that awareness of unity, that higher awareness of unity. It may not always be comfortable, but it's a process that we're undergoing together in this process of waking up to this new level of being. So when we think about the idea of making things happen in 2025, in this new year, at an individual level, from one person to the next, that's going to vary based on where you currently are on your spiritual path, based on your soul's biggest intentions for what your soul would like to achieve in this lifetime, and also based on whatever current lessons you are learning. So we actually have a lot of co-creative power when we approach this new cycle, this new year that has a lot of powerful potential for manifesting, meaning that we can set our own intentions for what it is that we would like to make happen, what we would like to manifest. Usually now, we have to remember that once we set an intention for something that we would like to manifest in our lives, how it manifests is dependent on a few different things. First of all, it's going to be dependent upon the lessons, again, that you're currently learning on your path, because anytime you look to manifest something new, you have to undergo personal transformation in order to manifest that goal or that new end result. So it's not just about manifesting something externally to you and having something there in the outside world. You have to transform yourself from within and become what it is that you're manifesting, or in other words, become a vibrational match for what it is that you are manifesting. So this means usually that if you set an intention to manifest something, it will accelerate your soul lessons so that you learn whatever it is that you need to learn so that you can transform and then manifest what you intend for your life. Now, on that journey of learning those lessons and having this accelerated transformation process, sometimes our concept of what it is that we want to manifest totally changes because we start to grow and learn to the extent that we realize, wow, maybe I want something different than I originally thought that I had wanted before. Maybe I'm starting to wake up and realize what it is that my soul is guiding me towards from a maybe higher perspective. So there's a great deal of transformation that we will likely all be undergoing throughout the coming year as we look to this next cycle, especially looking at the first half of the year. So if we think of moving from the December solstice all the way to the June solstice, that 6-month period of time will be a very powerful chapter. It's going to be one side of a very powerful chapter for manifesting, including a lot of those lessons in helping us to transform to become the match for what it is we look to create. Now, if we look at this from more of a group standpoint or collective standpoint, what are we going to be making happen as a collective? According to the angels, there's going to be a variety of a lot of different things. But if we were to try to maybe zoom out and look at it from the bird's eye view, then what we would see is a trend wherein there is going to be a continued breakdown of old structures. This is a momentum that we started several years back, breaking down old structures in societies and governments and cultures and communities that just don't work for us anymore. Things that maybe in the past would have kept us more in that separation consciousness. Those things will continue to break down. There's already a momentum. It's sort of like if you had a really fast moving ball rolling down a hill, it's just going to keep rolling down that hill. So this process of breaking down the old is going to be continuing well into 2025. But since this is also a manifestation year, according to the angels, it's a really special year for that light and that energy to start to come through and inspire people to plant seeds that will start to show us a little bit more about what the world is going to be looking like later. So in particular, there's a few things that the angels want to show us, and they're telling us that basically many light workers or souls that have been spiritually called, in other words, to help, to heal, to maybe be, we could say, midwives in this birthing process to bring forward this new level of vibration and consciousness. Those souls will specifically be activated to shine their light and to stand up and serve love in some way. So when we think about what step we're currently in with regards to consciousness and how we are evolving and developing and moving into new vibrations of consciousness, we can think of right now as a birthing period. The angels have given me many times before the analogy that right now it's as if humanity is in the midst of giving birth to a brand new level of consciousness, wherein at the end of giving birth to that new consciousness, we're actually going to be in a slightly higher level of unity awareness, However, it doesn't necessarily represent being in an absolutely perfect problem-free world. It simply represents that we're working to right now birth a level of consciousness that is taking us in to a slightly higher state of peace because we're more aware of our unity. We can feel and function in that state of unity at a higher level. Now, just like when a woman gives birth, there are contractions. So when a woman is in labor, giving birth to a baby, there are these contractions that occur, and they occur in different increments. So they occur along a timeline where, there might be one contraction, maybe it's a milder one towards the beginning, and then you wait an increment of time, and then there's another contraction that comes through. And then as you get closer to giving birth, there are more contractions that come with less space in between them. So the angels are saying that actually for many decades, humanity has been in this birthing process. And in the past, some of the biggest shifts in consciousness that we experienced were more spread out. But now our big moments for rising into higher consciousness, for awakening, which that can be very uncomfortable, just like having a contraction when a woman gives birth is uncomfortable. This is uncomfortable for our collective. These events are happening closer together, and they're just beginning to intensify in terms of how each new global event or consciousness awakening type of trigger is being processed, how they feel for us as a collective and how they are being processed. Now, according to the angels, it's very interesting. Right now, a lot of what is happening with regards to this shift in consciousness is happening at the spiritual plane of being, wherein we are receiving codes of light, encoded consciousness that is moving through us as a collective. And from that spiritual level of being, it's gradually starting to make shifts in our awareness. So it's moving from the spiritual plane of being into the mental plane of being. And then we're just at the beginnings of seeing these shifts come into the physical world as well. So there are lots of side effects of this, of course, because we see that with this shift in consciousness, there are global events that are coming along with it that are just starting to shake things up and change the way that we see and understand one another at like a global social type of level. Each new event helping us to unpack past false assumptions from being in a past consciousness of division and separation. So we're having to purge out right now all of the, we could say, false assumptions and therefore not so harmonious structures that we've held in our world's societies and in our way of life, so that we can clear the way to have an external world that will more closely resemble what we're beginning to create and ground and synthesize within, related to being in a unified consciousness, related to being in a consciousness that just one step further is holding that love at a higher level. These changes that we're undergoing are basically going to affect every major area of human society. And this is something that we're undergoing over a long period of time. So it will affect things like economy, government, environmentalism, global peace, all kinds of things that sort of connect us and support the structures of human modern society as we know it. All of these things are basically getting a kind of a makeover at this point, where there's a gradual elevation into the new. And it's interesting because there are many different areas where we're seeing some volatility. We're seeing some, sort of like big emotions, feelings, debates, conflicts, and things like that showing up in certain areas related to different social issues all around the world. But this is a natural part of this. This is a natural sign that we are indeed awakening, because we are now intolerant. We're becoming more and more intolerant to the energies, to the consciousness, and to the structures that don't serve us anymore. And the angels are having us think of it this way. They're saying, imagine that as we receive this new light that's been moving into our light bodies and gradually over several years upgrading each individual to a newer and newer level of consciousness, imagine that making you now very, very highly sensitive, as if every cell in your body is now tuned to the light and now craves being in alignment with that light and feeding that light and nourishing that light. It's naturally pushing out anything that doesn't, sort of harmonize with it, and that light is taking root within. If it's doing that at an individual level, it's definitely also doing that at a collective level as well, meaning that, again, in our communities and our societies, there is almost like we could call it in one way like an allergic reaction that some of our pockets of our communities and societies are undergoing to the old way of doing things. It's like being allergic or intolerant to the things that, again, just really don't serve the growth and expansion of this light. Think of the Big Bang Theory. So if you think of the idea that the universe started with this Big Bang and that everything has been expanding ever since then. Well, the angels like us to imagine that idea and tell us that that's the nature of the soul. That's the nature of this divine light and consciousness that we are being imbued with right now. It is infinite expansion. So anytime that light hits up against a wall, so it's always working to expand. It's expanding through us as individuals, and then it's also expanding through us in family groups, communities, societies, etc. If that light, that energy, that momentum, that power meets with a blockage, it's going to put pressure on the blockage and work to start to break it down and dissolve it and clear it over time. Naturally, of course, I think those old energies, those old structures, the old way of doing things, in some cases will try to fight back and will try to keep its place here in the world. But there is right now a process where it's inevitable. There's an inevitability to the fact that this expansion is occurring, and that no matter how long it takes, this healing, we could call it this breakdown of the old and this healing breakthrough to a new way is well underway. Again, it's not going to always be comfortable. It's not always going to look pretty. It's not going to be perfect or easy all the time. It might make us even more aware of what was problematic in the past, right? Just sort of like if you were purging out anything, you would become more aware of what's problematic. The angels want us to know that what's going on in the world right now, first off, is safe. It's safe for us to undergo. They know that these big changes can create feelings of major uncertainty, fear, and so forth in people. But they want us to know that largely the reason why these things look so, maybe overwhelming or intense or uncertain is because of the vantage point at which we're looking at them from. So as human beings, we live inside of a timeline. We have these relatively short lifespans that we have. And so when we see this one piece of this big arc of transformation happening during the course of our one, human lifetime, then it might look like, oh my gosh, we've got chaos and panic and all these different crazy things happening all around the world right now, and this looks like it's too much. How will we ever survive this? How will the world make it to this destination of love and unity? Well, the angels are saying, be calm, it is safe, it's okay. From their perspective, again, the angels stand outside of time. They actually stand in a state of being, or a consciousness, maybe of space, we could call it, that is actually outside of the timeline, the linear time that we experience as human beings. And so they're seeing the way that everything is unfolding on the planet now, and they want us to know all is well. All is absolutely destined to go in this direction. So it's funny because they're saying it's your nature to awaken to love. It's humanity's nature and destiny to awaken to love in the same way that it's our nature to breathe, for air to move into our lungs, and we know that we can count on that. We can trust that one moment we're going to breathe in and then the next we're going to breathe out. In the same way that we can trust that the nature of human life is that we are born and that eventually, after living, we have a moment to die. There are certain inevitabilities that are written into our very nature. And that is true of this collective shift. Even if it takes a long time, and actually it's already been something that the world has been undergoing for several generations. So we can't be impatient. We can't expect it to just happen like that. And then overnight, the whole world has ascended to this brand new state. They're saying they know it's challenging for us to, again, look at this transformation from our vantage point where we're seeing things from our own timeline, comparing it to the idea of the lifetime that we're living right now. But they're saying this is a safe transformation. And they want us to know also that every human soul that volunteered to incarnate and to live a human lifetime on the planet right now specifically chose to be here during this really exciting, beautiful shift. So we may not see the entire birthing process in our lifetime, and that's okay. Our souls chose to incarnate now so that we could be part of the part of the birthing process that's happening now in our lifetimes, and to hold love and to hold this new light in the best way that we possibly can while we are here, so that we can expand it, create a foothold for that light, and see how it evolves. So likely in our lifetimes, however, the angels can definitely say that we will see some very big shifts, some very big transformations occur, but it's also safe for us to sort of let go of a sense of wanting to control it or needing to know exactly, like, when is everybody just going to shift into into peace? Do we get a moment where the light switch goes off and takes us into this new consciousness? They're saying just be in the present moment with this, because literally we're the ones co-creating it. We are part of creating this rebirth, this birth of a new earth, a new threshold of consciousness on the earth right now. We're creating it. It is part of our determined destiny, but we're also co-creating it at the same time. So stay in the present moment with it, trust in the process, and allow it to unfold. Now, from the angel's perspective, human beings experience some division, some separation in our consciousness. However, from their perspective, they know and they can see that this separation that we experience is really only an illusion. It's a temporary illusion. It's a temporary state of mind that we come into while we're in our human bodies, living our human journey. And then once we are finished with our human journey, we go home. We go back to our origins, our divine origins, where we remember that we are one with everyone. Now, it's interesting because speaking of separation and, consciousness of division, we as human beings, from the angel's perspective, happen to be in a very exciting time of growth right now on the planet, because we're currently learning how to awaken more and more to our unity with one another, with other human beings, and our unity with all other sentient conscious beings in the universe. We are at the very slow, gradual, gentle beginnings of starting to more collectively wake up to realize that unity at a higher scale, at a bigger scale. And so oftentimes what the angels like to do is remind us that we all chose to come into these human existences. We chose these human lifetimes to live. They tell us that we all chose to live these human journeys for a reason as well, and that there is a universal spiritual purpose that unites all of humanity. And that universal human purpose is, again, love. It is to come into this human existence wherein we can experience great contrasts to love. We can experience challenges. We can experience the illusion of being separate from one another and separate from the divine creator source. But in that state, this gives us a really profound yearning to return to our divine origins, to return to love, to return to unity with our divine creator source.